So will Tigray become an independent country? This is a question that everyone's talking about right now, mainly because of the heightened tensions between Ethiopia and Eritrea. Tigrayans, rightfully so, do not want another war within their region. And a lot of them actually believe that they've been betrayed by Ethiopia and all the other ethnic groups in allowing this war to even happen in the first place. Now, I'm not here to get into the semantics. I'm not here to say who's right or wrong. This video's whole purpose is purely to discuss whether or not Tigray will become an independent country. So if you do want to know this, watch the rest of the video and please like and subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comment sections about your thoughts and opinions. But that being said, I will be lying if I said that Tigray wasn't a part of Ethiopia. For centuries now, they haven't really been separated. If you was a Tigrayan, you'd be an Ethiopian. You'd be classified as an Ethiopian. Your nationality would be Ethiopian. And their inclusion in Ethiopian history isn't just symbolic. It actually does have merit. Not only has there been Tigrayan emperors like Johannes IV, there have also been empires. The most notable one, the Aksumite Empire, which was an empire between Eritrea and Tigray. But a lot of Ethiopians claim the Aksumite Empire as Ethiopian history. So to say that Tigray isn't a part of Ethiopia would be stupid. Well, a lot of people do actually see Tigray as being a part of Ethiopia. So their inclusion into Ethiopia and Ethiopian history has spanned for hundreds of years. And if we fast forward now to the 1990s, hundreds of years later, there were Tigrayan leaders in the form of the TPLF ruling again over Ethiopia. They controlled and had absolute power over Ethiopia in terms of a political sense, which is another sign that Tigrayans actually did see themselves as Ethiopian. So you're probably wondering, why do a lot of them want to leave and become an independent country? Well, I'd be lying if I would say that Tigrayans were treated favorably throughout Ethiopia's whole history. Now, this isn't maybe just targeted towards Tigrayans. I feel like a lot of Ethiopian ethnic groups would feel like they've been politically marginalized by different Ethiopian regimes. For example, Haile Selassie and under even Mengistu Haile Mariam. A lot of people felt politically marginalized. Both of these two leaders in particular actually did cause a lot of issues for the Tigrayans. Tigray did actually suffer from famine and drought and conflict during this time, which of course led to a lot of their population unfortunately being killed. And this was actually a common occurrence between many different Ethiopian regimes against many different ethnic groups and peoples and regions in Ethiopia. They all had their grievances with the rulers of Ethiopia. The Eritreans actually overthrew Mengistu Haile Mariam with the help of the TPLF, the Tigrayans, and many different other ethnic groups in Ethiopia. And now that he was overthrown, there was a new regime put into place, the TPLF, the Tigrayan People's Liberation Front. The Tigrayans actually was in charge of Ethiopia for around nearly 30 years, from the early 1990s all the way up to 2018. During this time, there was similar type of grievances between the ethnic population of Ethiopia. A lot of the tribes and the groups felt politically marginalized. They felt like they were getting mistreated. There was also talks about massive corruptions within the Ethiopian government, loads of money being redirected back to TPLF politicians, which led to an kind of Tigrayan sentiment within the Ethiopian population. A lot of people are actually happy that Abiy Ahmed took control of Ethiopia back in 2018. And when the TPLF lost power, this actually heightened tensions between the TPLF and the Ethiopian government. For the next couple of years, tensions were escalating to the point where COVID-19 hit. And Abiy Ahmed said, we're not doing elections until we sort this out, which was normal. A lot of countries cancelled their elections. TPLF saw this as a sign of like oppression. We want to have our own elections. They disobeyed orders from the Ethiopian government. And again, due to history of them being politically marginalized or feeling politically marginalized and oppressed and mistreated by the Ethiopian regimes, they felt like they were going to get attacked. So in their eyes, according to a lot of the people that I've spoken to anyways, they attacked the military base as a preemptive strike. Now, I'm not here to defend that action. I'm just here to give you the context as to how the Tigray War started. Because the Tigray War is the main reason as to why Tigrayans want to be an independent country. Remember when I said that there was anti-Tigrayan sentiment building up due to the TPLF's mismanagement of Ethiopia throughout their regime? The Tigray War was kind of an unleashing of that. Mass atrocities were committed, loads of people were killed, and because the TPLF actually sent missiles to Eritrea, Eritrea actually intervened into the war. So the Tigrayan civilians, not the politicians, the Tigrayan civilians were being attacked at all fronts, all sides. They felt betrayed by every single person. Loads of them lost so many family members and relatives and friends that they don't want to be a part of Ethiopia anymore. For many Tigrayans, the Tigray war was the last straw. It was enough. They feel like the only way that Tigray could really be safe and truly protected is by becoming an independent country. So this brings us to the question, will Tigray become an independent country? My honest opinion, I don't see it happening. Now, I'm not going to say never. I definitely do believe there's always a small possibility that it could happen, right? But I'm saying as long as Abiy Ahmed and Ethiopia is intact, Tigray won't be gaining independence. Even though in their constitution it technically does allow succession in Article 39, I just don't see it practically being a feasible option for Tigray for many different reasons. We can talk about, economically speaking, they have no sea access already being a part of Ethiopia. So separating from Ethiopia and becoming even smaller, even more landlocked, surrounded by Ethiopia, Eritrea and Sudan, they're going to be heavily reliant on Sudan and Eritrea for sea access. Historically speaking, they haven't had the best relationship with Eritrea. And with Sudan going through a civil war, how are they going to gain sea access? How are they going to gain access to exporting their goods and services? It's going to be very difficult. Not to mention the fact that they've been economically devastated due to this Tigray war. They don't really have the infrastructure or economy in place for them to even afford to be independent. Not to mention the fact that the African Union would be heavily against that. The African Union headquarters being based in Addis Ababa, by the way, Ethiopia. But that has nothing to do why they're against separatist movements in Africa in the first place. The reason they would be against it is because they don't want to normalize separatist movements from leaving countries. Because if they allow Tigray to be independent, then they would have to allow a lot of other separatist movements within the continent to be an independent nation. And if Tigray was an independent state, it would be susceptible to regional instability. Being surrounded by 3 countries whose region has historically had problems and conflicts, Tigray as an independent state would just be another battlefield. And with no backing, it's going to be very hard to defend that. Not to mention the fact that even if they did have some support, the other neighboring countries would assume that one of these countries is funding or backing them. And they're going to say that these guys are basically using Tigray as a proxy to fight them. Whether that be Ethiopia, Sudan, Eritrea, Somalia, whoever. They'll see it as a place for rebels to form and like fight against whoever, innit? Well, a lot of these countries would not want that to happen. And last but not least, just looking at it from a human perspective, as a civilian, your whole life you've grown up being an Ethiopian. You're Tigrayan by your ethnic group, your tribe, but you're Ethiopian. You've grown up, you're listening to Ethiopian music. The maps have said that you're Ethiopian. Your history has defined you and connected you to being Ethiopian. That being a part of your identity, it would be hard for a lot of people to separate themselves all of a sudden. A lot of people do have trauma. They have suffered. They do have the right to succeed. Article 39 of their constitution, and they also distrust the government. But that being said, in this current regime and leadership, I don't see them becoming an independent nation. And that's just me looking at it logically speaking. It doesn't really seem feasible to do that in this current regime. You having less access to resources, funding and infrastructure, it doesn't make sense. But I'm not here to say never. You never know what can happen. In an ideal world, I'd love for everybody to just get along. Ethiopia, Eritrea, Somalia, Sudan, whoever. So that's just my take. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know your thoughts about this whole situation. And comment down below as well, what type of videos and topics would you like me to speak about next? And what type of videos in general would you like me to make?